And good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. It is the afternoon in the UK. It's the morning over in America. This is the Gen Con main stage. My name is Paul Grogan, and today I'm going to be doing a preview of two games that are coming out from Czech Games Edition this year. They're both going to be released in Q4 of this year. The first one is Lost Ruins of Arnak, which I have the box for it here. And the second one is Under Falling Skies. We're going to be doing Lost Ruins of Arnak first. I'm going to be talking to the designer. I'm going to be explaining a bit about the game. And we're going to be playing around it just to give you an idea of how it plays. Then we're going to be moving on to Under Falling Skies. So, without further ado, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the trailer that Czech Games Edition have created for Lost Ruins of Arnak, and that is coming on screen now.
Legends tell of an island hidden somewhere in uncharted seas. In ancient days, it was inhabited by a great civilization. Can you learn its secrets? Discover the lost ruins of Arnak.
And there we go, and we are back. And I just got told there were some audio issues. I've been having microphone issues, so apologies for that. I have rebooted the microphone, so hopefully everything is now working fine. So yeah, Lost Ruins of Arnak, that was the trailer, and I'm now going to say hello to the designer, who I have right here on the other end of the line. If I press this button, he should magically appear. There you go. Good afternoon, Elwyn.
Hi Paul.
How are you doing?
Hello, everyone. I'm doing fine, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, we're here just to tell people a little bit about this game. Could you start with the very high level elevator pitch for the game?
Well, what we see is an island that's been just discovered, and we are all eager to explore it. So this is what the game is about. We are all sending our expeditions, and we want to learn as much about this island and the culture that once lived there, the people that once lived there, as possible. So we're archaeologists. We want to find more information.
Mm-hmm. Now, it does say at the bottom of the screen prototype copy, but we will just stress that now. This is not the finished version of the game. The artwork and the graphic design are still being worked on. And in fact, you're actually still tweaking the game a little bit as well, aren't you? It's not quite finished.
Well, in a CG, we always try to put a lot of focus on the balance of the game. And so we still have a month ahead of us that we will really focus on balancing. So the different strategies, there's a lot of replayability in this game, but we want to see that you can really pursue different ways how to play the game, and they are just balanced well.
Yeah. Okay, so thematically, the game is set in an alternative history, sort of 1930s time, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. Talk about the game mechanisms then. What are the core mechanisms within the game?
Well, this game combines actually two mechanisms that my wife and I, because we both designed this game together, that we really enjoy. And it's a deck building and a worker placement. Okay. And it tries to achieve something, we hope, something new and exciting, that it kind of make a nice rhythm how these things work together. So I'm actually glad that we can show around how it plays, because it's easier to explain it that way if you see it in action.
Yeah. So yeah, deck building is one of the core mechanisms with this game, but it is different from a lot of deck builders. For a start, your deck of cards is 6. Now, a lot of deck builders that I've played, your starting deck of cards is normally something like, 10 or 15. So what's the reason for the really small deck size that you've gone for in this game?
Well, there were some design decisions. If you want to make deck building exciting, you want to play it for several rounds. Let's say you want to be able to see the cards more often than just once or twice. Yeah. But if you want to play 17 rounds, let's say, of the worker placement game, that would take days. So you need to kind of find a compromise. So there was one of the decisions how to make the deck building faster. There are some mechanisms that actually help the game progress. Like your deck actually develops much faster. You will be able to play the cards. It's quite essential what you buy at the beginning of your expedition, how you will equip it, because each card really matters in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, now one of the cool things with this game, again, this is different from other deck builders. So if you know deck building games, you will probably know that on your turn you you'll play all of your cards, they'll go to your discard pile, and then when your deck runs out, you'll shuffle your discard pile to form a new deck. Not in this game. You have no discard pile in this game. Whenever you buy a card from the market, it actually goes to the bottom of your deck. So yeah, again, just go through the design process of how you decided not to have a discard pile.
Well, one of the decisions was if you have such a small deck from the beginning, if you have only 6 cards, the effect would be that you play 5 cards, or like you draw 5 cards at the beginning of each round. That means that you will play them, you want to draw another 5 cards, and you will need to reshuffle.
Right.
So that way, your discard pile would stay empty like half a game.
Okay.
And so that would cause only confusion. So we try to turn it for advantage. And so we actually develop some mechanisms that are connected to the fact that you have just one deck that you are developing in this game.
Yeah.
There's no discard pile.
Yeah, cool. And the other thing as well that differentiates it from other deck builders is, again, in most deck building games that I've played, on your turn, you will play all of your cards. You'll go through your whole hand of cards, you'll play them all, and you'll do lots of stuff. In this game, you take sort of micro actions. You will play generally one card, you'll do one thing, and then play passes to the other player. And the round ends once you've decided that you don't want to take any more actions, which is usually when you haven't got any cards left in hand, but there are other things you can do as well. Now, the game plays over 5 rounds. What would you say is the play time? Let's say for 4 players, the first time you play, what should people expect?
I think you will play it under 2 hours.
Okay.
If it's really your first time and you need to read the cards. They are not complicated. There's not too much text that we tried really to make it accessible that way. But I would say just find 2 hours and you will be safe.
Okay. And 4 players, once they've played the game a couple of times, what would they be able to play?
Hour and a half, I think.
Okay. So that's sort of the play time that you're looking at. Now, in terms of complexity, I've been asked this a couple of times already over the last 24 hours. Personally, I class this as a light to medium game. Would you agree with that, being one of the designers of the game?
Well, I think if you know deck building, and if you play some worker placement games, a lot of things will make sense just intuitively to you. It's just connected even with a theme. So many things just make sense. So it takes time to learn the rules, and it's not that complicated. But what's kind of like, there's a lot of meaty decision in the game. There's a lot of decision each round. Basically, as you said, you don't play all your cards at once. It's quite tactical game because you will play one card and maybe then situation changes and you will decide that you will play the rest of the cards differently than you originally planned because you have several ways how to play each card. And so in that sense, I think it's more like a medium game because there are a lot of decisions.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you know me, Elwin, I play a lot of very complex, heavy games. So yeah, for me, it probably sits on the light to medium scale. But if you are not into the super heavy, complex games that I am, then it is probably a medium weight game. You definitely do have decisions of the game. Let's just touch on the theme a bit more because you've managed to combine one of the hardest things, when designing a Euro, as saying that as somebody who doesn't design games, but is finding a thematic way to explain some of the mechanisms in the game. But having played this a couple of times now, I feel that you have managed to attach theme into certain parts of the game. And was that obviously a conscious decision? Is that you wanted to put more theme in there?
It was because basically that's what we enjoy when we design games with my wife. Me and we always trying to find mechanisms that actually work for the theme. Right. So if there were some decisions, we want to make you feel like you're actually building up your expedition. So we were thinking how to do that. If you want to find something new, secret information, how to do that. All that combined, that it would still result in a Euro game that we would enjoy. Right. So this game actually is tailored just for two of us. We just really enjoy this game, and we hope that you guys will like it too.
Yeah, I know when I spoke to you yesterday, and we talked a little bit about how you design this game, and you said to me that you and your wife, you design games together that you would want to play, and you like deck building and you like worker placement, so you designed this game, and then you decided to put together a prototype, and then it turns out other people like this game as well. So, yeah, and CG has obviously picked it up.
That was a nice moment because we've been designing games for a while because we've been working at CG for a couple of years now, and it's one of the part of our jobs is the board game development. But so we also develop games in our free time, but never we actually experienced the fact that we had the original idea, and within a month and a half, we would have a playable prototype.
Yeah.
So this game is special in that regard.
Yeah, normally the process of a designer designing games is they spend 2 years, throwing around bits of paper at home until they finally manage to get a breakthrough. Then they spend another couple of years working on it before they're ready to pitch it to a publisher. Whereas with this game, it kind of all came together pretty quickly and it worked out.
I mean, it was still a lot of work, but yeah, it was much faster than we expected. That's also one of the reasons why we decided at CG to publish it already this year. I think the original plan was we'll see how it keeps developing, but because the development went fast and we were happy with the results, we decided let's go for this year.
Yeah, cool. Right, so what we're going to do now, for those people who are watching, we're actually just going to play through one of the rounds of the game, just to give you an idea of how it plays, and so you can see the mechanisms in process. Obviously, you're not going to see everything in the game in just one round. We've got this set up for a 2-player game. Now, it is going to be a 1 to 4 player game. So the game is going to come with a solo mode included in the game itself, but it will play up to 4 players. We've got it set up here for a 2-player game. It's been decided, I decided, that because I'm controlling the camera, that I'm going first.
That's okay.
And yeah, as Elwin mentioned, each player starts with a hand of 6 cards. Now, those 6 cards contain 4 cards which you can play for a good effect, and 2 fear cards, which they're not great cards, but they are still useful for something, which you will see. So what happens is these cards get shuffled. So yeah, you've only got a 6-card deck. 5 of those cards you get in your opening hand. So there's only 1 card that you don't start with, and you know that that card is there. I'm going to draw your cards for you, Elwin.
Because usually in deck builders, you get a lot of randomness. In many ways, the randomness is mitigated with different mechanisms in this game. So yeah, as you said, you have quite a control over your deck.
Yeah, there you go. So obviously we're playing with open hands today just because it's being streamed, but normally you would keep the card secret in your hand. Okay, so I'm going to start playing. Because I'm the first player, I start with 2 of these gold tokens and a compass token. Start with 2... what are these going to be called? Archaeologists or explorers? Or...
I think so. Yeah, they are archaeologists.
Okay. Right, and what I'm going to do to start the game is, I think I'm going to buy something from the market. Now, if my camera is working properly, let me just check this. Yes, it is. Excellent. Right, I can zoom in. So I'm just going to show you the market. The market is up here. So because we're in round 1, the scepter is here. Well, that means the market consists of these 6 cards. 1 of them is an artifact, and the other 5 are items. As this scepter moves forward, as the game progresses, there will be more artifacts in the market and fewer items. The cost to buy an item is printed down at the bottom. And as I mentioned, I actually start the game with 2 gold, but before I buy something, I'm going to play this gold card. So I have a gold card here. And what this does is it allows me to play the card, and every card you play just goes into a played area in front of you. I take a gold, and there is an icon on there. You probably can't see it too well, but there's an icon on there that basically says, and now take another action. So I've played the card, generated a gold. I've got 3 gold. I'm now taking another action. And now I'm going to buy the ostrich from the market, because why not? That's what I'm going to buy. So that costs me 3 gold, as you can see on the bottom of the card. So I spend the 3 gold and put it into the supply. Now, when you buy an item card, it goes to the bottom of your deck. So I know that I'm going to see that card next turn because my deck is currently only 1 card. And that is it. That is my action done. I now slide down the cards in the market and we get a new one. And remember, this is all prototype that you're seeing. So this artwork is near final, but it isn't quite there yet. Right, Elwin, what would you like to do on your first turn?
Well, I would like to equip my expedition as well, but I will start with something else. I will play a fear card. All the cards that you have in your hand, you can play for 2 different ways, either for its effect or for its travel cost. But only fear card, as you said, it's not a nice card. A purpose, like your goal should be to get rid of all your fear in your life in this game. So you play it for the travel attack. That's the only thing that you can do, and it generates just 1 boot. That's the basic travel icon, and it will allow you to move around the basic camp because you're afraid to go any further. And that's fine for me for now. I will use that 1 boot icon to travel to a location that generates 2 gold. Okay. Because I want to be richer.
Yep, so these are all of the locations in the game, and the travel icons that you need to use in order to get to the locations is printed on the location. So these 5 here, these are the base camp locations, and you can see that you just need a boot icon to get to them. If you wanted to go to these ones up here, you would need a jeep, and if you wanted to go here, you would need a ship. So with Elwyn playing the fear card, which generates 1 boot, which one did you want to go on, sorry?
I wanted gold.
The gold. So you go there and you get 2 gold. Okay. So you get 2 gold. There you go. And that is your action. Now that is one of your archaeologists used. You only get 2 archaeologists. That is the worker placement part of the game. And it's me next. And what I'm going to do is... Oh, now that's interesting. I was actually going to do that. But I can't do that. So instead... Right, okay, I think I know what I'm going to do. I am going to also spend a fear card for the movement, so that generates 1 boot. And then I'm going to take this, and I'm actually going to go onto this space here, which generates an arrowhead. So there are 3 special types of resources in the game, which we can see up here. Now again, prototype components, these have been 3D printed over at CGE, but these are actually going to be plastic molded components. So we have these tablets, stone tablets with writing on, we have these jewels, and we have these blue arrowheads. And the space that I went on gets me one of these blue arrowheads. Now these resources are used for different things. There is a thematic reason why they are what they are. The arrowheads are generally used for defeating guardians because this island that hasn't really been discovered before, turns out that there's some guardians on it, which can be dangerous. So arrowheads will help us defeat those guardians. But that is my go done. Over to you, sir.
Well, I will definitely want to go equipped. So I will buy for 3. Let me see. No, first what I will do, I will play a card to generate a gold.
Yeah.
So I would have 4.
Play a gold card.
And then I will buy a pack donkey.
Okay, so for 4 gold, these pack donkeys are very expensive in this part of the world. There you go. So you buy that. And that goes to the bottom of your deck.
And this is also something that actually gets used to, because if you're used to playing deck building games, you kind of like know some general rules, like drawing cards is good, destroying cards in this game is called exiling cards is good, but you need to be careful because your deck is very small, so you need to keep building it. If you just have a lot of draw cards or exiling cards, suddenly you will end up with just not enough cards to actually fully be efficient in the game.
Yep. So what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to start doing some research. Okay, so it's time to explain this part of the board over here. So one of the actions that you can do in the game is you can actually do some research. So this whole right-hand side of the board here, this is like your journal that you're writing. And each player has 2 little markers on this track, and you can advance these markers upwards, which gets you bonuses immediately, will get you points at the end of the game, etc., etc. And whilst there's no direct player conflict in this game, there is kind of a race element, because these tokens, once you've taken these tokens, these were placed randomly at the start of the game. The first player to get onto this space will get that, and then it gets discarded. To move these tokens up, you basically spend the resources that's shown. So there's 2 paths here. I have a compass and an arrowhead, which means I can move one of my markers up, but you have to move the magnifying glass up first. The rules are you have 2 of these tokens, but you cannot move the book token beyond the magnifying glass. Now, there is a thematic reason for that, Elwyn, isn't there?
Well, you need to actually accomplish the research first before you can write about it. So yeah, it makes sense.
Okay, so it's as simple as that. Is the magnifying glass is you actually doing the research, and then the book is you writing a book about that research.
That is correct.
Okay, cool. So I've advanced there. That gets me, there was no bonus on the space itself, but that does get me 1 gold. So I take 1 gold. And now it's your go.
I will play one of the exploration cards for the compass. I will generate 1 compass token.
Which one, the ship or the jeep?
I will want to play the ship.
Okay, so the ship, you play that as to generate a compass token, and then you get another action.
Yes, and now I will be brave, maybe a little bit foolish, and I will go exploring new lands.
Okay.
So I will use the second exploration card for the travel icon. So now I will use it for a jeep. So I can actually travel further into the land, into the unknown, uncharted territory. I will pick the one with a coin.
Okay. Now, as well as it costing a jeep, to explore anything in this level requires 3 of these compass tokens, which represents the time that you're spending doing the exploration. Elwyn does have 3 compass tokens, so they get spent, and you explore here. Now, exploring one of these areas gets you all sorts of bonuses. The first thing is you find this statue, and it has an immediate bonus of a gold on it. So I will give you 1 gold. This statue then goes onto your player board and it's worth 3 points at the end of the game. There is another use for it, which we might not get to mention, but that goes on your player board. And then what we do is we draw a tile from the level 2 stack of tiles. So there's a whole stack of tiles here. These will be shuffled at the start of the game. And we get one to see what is there. And there you go. So we have a stone with some kind of markings on it. Now, were you telling me yesterday that there is some kind of backstory explanation of all of these places?
Yeah, actually, Min wrote quite a lengthy document about the history of the land,
Nice.
why things are the way they are. Of course, you will not be able to see it because there's no written text, there's no flavor text and stuff like that.
But it is there.
But you will be able to see like different runes and markings and patterns everywhere, and they just make sense. And as I said, maybe eventually we'll be able to expand on that universe. But for now, in this place, I discovered this kind of temple.
Yeah.
And that's what I found there. Some information. I will gather that one stone tablet and 1 arrowhead.
So that's yours as well. However, you know those guardians I mentioned? Every location in tier 2 or tier 3 comes with a guardian. So we have these guardian tiles, and again, these are shuffled at the start of the game. And then we're going to put a guardian on there, and it is a very large beetle, which is a little scary. Now, these guardians are there. You can defeat them. The cost to defeat them is printed on there, and then basically that defeats the guardian and gets you points. If you don't defeat it, then what's going to happen at the end of the round is if there is a worker on this space, the worker has to run away. The archaeologist runs away, and if you do run away from a guardian, you get a fear card. And fear cards, as we've mentioned, are bad cards. They will clog up your hand. Right, it's back to me. So I was going to go exploring as well, but I don't think I've got the abilities to do so because I don't have the 3 compasses because I did that research over there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to play this fear card. Have I got that? Is that going to work? Ooh, no, it's not. Okay, I'm going to play this fear card as another boot, so another movement, and I'm going to place this onto this space here. Now, this ability here, if I just zoom in, this allows me to take a duel, but to do so, I have to play a card without any effect. So I'm going to have to ditch one of my cards for no effect to get myself a duel. But that's my go done. I've now used both of my archaeologists for this turn, so I'm not going into this area. It looks way too dangerous.
Yes, and I think I could play still a few more rounds, but I think because we have a short period of time for this stream, I will pass for now.
Okay.
There are a few more mechanisms that we can probably just describe. And so one of them that we haven't mentioned is, you mentioned at the very, very beginning, as you see the card row, there are 5 items that you can purchase to equip your expedition, and there's 1 slot for the artifact. These 2 cards are different. Maybe Paul, you want to explain how they are different?
Yeah, so the items, you saw what happened when we bought an item. We bought an item from here and we put it onto the bottom of our deck, which means we're guaranteed to be able to, with the deck size as it currently is, it means I'm guaranteed to draw the ostrich next turn. And then you can use it. Every time that card comes out, you can use that item. The artifacts work in a different way. The first thing is whenever you buy an artifact from this market here, you can use it immediately. Okay, so as soon as you buy it, you can play it for its ability without having to put it into your deck. However, the next time it goes through your deck, the next time it comes out, you have to basically recharge it. You have to research it even more in order to get more use out of it. And that's one of the primary reasons for these tablets. So you can see this on the card itself. If I just zoom in on the card, you can see that there is this shovel icon, which may change, remember, prototype, which means when you immediately get the card, you get this bonus here. And then if you want to, every time in future you spend a relic, you basically recharge it and you can do it again. So the artifacts work in a slightly different way to the items. All the cards are also worth points at the end of the game. So some of them, the ones that are on display at the moment, are just worth 1 and 2. The ones that are worth 2 points are, not quite as good abilities as the ones worth 1. So yeah, that's the artifacts. We haven't seen defeating a guardian, but we kind of mentioned it. If you do spend the resources to defeat the guardian, you simply take the guardian tile and you put it there. There will be no more Guardians at this location. Once the Guardian has gone from the location, it's clear, and then future archaeologists can keep going there to get the bonuses. That's essentially how it plays. The first turn is always going to be a shorter turn because you're just buying some cards, but later on, once you start playing and you're getting into the game, you will be doing a lot of different things, and there are certain abilities which allow you to draw more cards on your turn, which means you'll get to do more things. What?
You will start building your engine. Assistants start to joining your expedition, so your team will grow. They will grant you some special ability each round. So yeah, there actually, as you mentioned, there is no direct conflict because that's something we don't like in games too much. But there's a lot of indirect competition because there's a lot of timing. You want that card because it really works well for your deck, but you want to be first in the research. You also want to go first for that location. So in that sense, there's quite a lot of player interaction, like a racing element.
I mean, these bonuses here, these were shuffled and placed randomly at the start of the game, but I'm looking at these now and thinking, oh, that one would be really good for me because that would allow me to get rid of this. And Elwyn's probably thinking, no, that one would be really good for Paul. And I know that, and then he might go there before I do. So even in a two-player game, there is still quite a lot of interaction between the players in potentially getting in the way of what somebody else would do. But you probably want to focus mainly on what you're trying to do. The other thing we didn't see as well, which is quite cool, is I was going to try and do it if I was able to, is actually progress my book up to here, but I didn't have the resources. But if you do manage to progress your book up to here, what happens is you get one of these assistants. So there are 2 levels of assistance in the game. Remember, prototype at the moment, but you have these silver assistants and you have these gold assistants. And these are quite cool because what happens is when you get one of these assistants, you put it onto your player board, and then basically once each round you can use it, you can flip it over to get the bonus on it. That thematically represents the fact that you've actually written a book. Somebody has then read that book and thought, Paul, he's a cool guy. He's off exploring and writing stories about it. I want to go join him. So these assistants come with you and give you regular bonuses. So the earlier you get them, the better. And later on in the game, you can get these gold assistants, which have more powerful abilities. So yeah, I think that's a fairly comprehensive overview, isn't it?
Yeah, thank
there
you.
Go. So yeah, the game is coming out in Q4 of this year. It is on Board Game Geek. There is an entry on Board Game Geek. The video that I did yesterday is up there for it. And I'm going to be doing more content for this game on the channel in a couple of weeks' time. Hopefully a full playthrough with some more tweaks and maybe some updated cards. I think that's the plan, isn't it?
Yeah, we will be happy if you do that, and we want to show more progress to the prototype because this is really the first time we're showing this prototype to the public.
Yeah, CGE normally don't like to show off games at this stage of development, but because as soon as this game was announced, there was a lot of people asking for a lot of information about it. So yeah, CGE has made the decision to show the game not before it's ready, but in the current state that it is. But as I say, rest assured there is work going on with the game right now. The artists and the graphic designers, they're working on it. And yeah, the game should be ready for later on this year. Right.
Well, thank you so much, Paul, for introducing this game and everyone watching. So yes, if you want to see more, just subscribe on the BGG and we will be trying to provide more and more information.
Cool. Right. Well, thank you very much, Elwyn. I will say goodbye to you. And if I click that button, he should disappear. Right. Okay. So next up is I'm going to be covering Under Falling Skies. Okay, now this is another game that's coming out later on this year from CGE. I've got the designer on the Skype call with me. And what I'm going to do is I'm now going to put the trailer on for this. And while the trailer is playing for this, I am somehow going to get this game off the table and get the other one on. So bear with us a minute. There might be a slight delay, but I will now play the trailer.
I'm going to try it.
Right, I think I've done it. I think I've managed to switch out the games in time. So yes, Thank you very much for bearing with me. This is Under Falling Skies. So again, this is another prototype, but this is in quite an advanced stage of development with regards to the artwork and everything else. And this is a solo game, primarily a solo game. However, my personal feeling on this game, which seems to be backed up by a number of other people, so I'm not wrong all the time, is that this game is actually better when played with more than one player. So yeah, technically it's a solo game, but I like playing it with 2 people or potentially even 3, sat down and trying to work out the game, how to play it together. Right, let's get rid of that. Let's put the box cover on screen. And right, let us say hello to the designer who should be here. Good afternoon, Tom.
Hi there, Paul.
How are you doing this afternoon?
How are you? Yeah, I'm doing great.
Good. So thank you very much for joining me. Now, tell us about the history of this game and how it came to be. I think it's fair to say one of the most hyped games at the moment that people are talking about. So yeah, how did it all start?
Oh, that's really nice of you. Many people already know about the game because of its print and play version. Because originally the game was developed for a 9-card nano game contest that was run on BGG. And it appeared that the game actually won that contest. Later, I started to work with CGE, and I showed them the game, and they appeared to quite like it. So we decided we would like to publish it, but publish it like in a more generous way than just this original 9-card print and play game.
Yeah. And obviously the timing, because of the current global pandemic, some people out there might think, oh, CG have decided to print a solo game just because they're popular at the moment. But actually CG was planning to produce this game this year before the global pandemic hit, which is unusual because in the past CG haven't tended to do solo games much.
Yeah, I must say that it can be a bit risky from the publishing side, publish a solo game only. But I'm really happy that we managed to keep it solo because I think that it fits the game really well. There were many people telling us, okay, you can do it like a 2-player game or whatever, and it definitely would be doable, but I think it would abuse the game a bit. And so it works really well as a 1-player experience, but as we experience during the whole playtesting, there are many people who really like the game and playing it in like cooperatively, like in 2, 3, or even we had even like 5 people around the table the game discussing it, and it was amazing to actually watch them.
Cool. So just give us a very high level overview of what this game is about, because it looks like it's got alien spacecraft in it.
Yeah, I think that the trailer said it quite well for me. It's about an alien spaceship, alien mothership appearing above Earth and attacking the surface. And since it's like constantly bombarding the surface of the Earth, then people had to keep shelter in underground bunkers hidden under the large Earth cities. Now, from those bunkers, you're like a leader of one of those bunkers, and you try to develop a weapon able to destroy this huge mothership.
So yeah, that's thematically where the game is. Mechanically, it's dice rolling and dice drafting, but the clever part of this game is that the dice are not used for resolving your actions. It's all about you roll the dice and then you have to decide what you're going to do with the dice. And you do have a lot of choices within that, with the potential ability to re-roll some of the dice as well. How long does a game of this normally take?
I would say, I'm probably the most experienced person with the game, and I can finish one game in, let's say, 15 minutes, but that's really fast. And usually when you play your first game, it takes you like I don't know, 40, maybe even 50 minutes with learning everything. But when you get more experience, it's a 20 minutes, 30-minute game.
That's been my experience as well. I've been doing a lot of demos of this over the last couple of months, and those demos tend to be running to about an hour to an hour and a quarter. But that's including the teach, and that's including two people really discussing and trying to work out the puzzle. If you were to sit down and play this game on your own, you are looking at about a 20-minute game, maybe 30 minutes if you're a bit slow at making decisions. Okay, we're just going to run through one round of the game now and show you how it plays. The game doesn't have a fixed number of rounds. However, at the end of each round, the mothership is going to move one space closer towards the base. And when the mothership reaches this space here, it's game over. But there are ways that the mothership can move closer. So at the start of each round, what happens is you will roll these 5 dice here. And they will all get rolled. And then, say me and you, Tom, were playing together. We now have to choose where we're going to place those dice in our base. Now, this is our base layout, but you will notice that we have an orange marker here. Let me just zoom in a little bit and scroll round. There we go. Right, so this orange marker here, this is our excavator. We are currently only allowed to use rooms up to that excavator because these rooms here have not yet been excavated. We have to excavate these rooms in order to be able to use them. So we can only place dice at the moment in these 2 levels here. We have 5 columns and we have 5 dice, and each column must have 1 dice placed in it. We cannot place more than 1 dice in the same column. Where we place the dice will matter. Rather than explaining all of the rules, Tom, what would you do? What would be the first thing that you would do here?
Let me see. I mean, when I play the game, usually the first thing I think about is to excavate, to widen my possibilities. So I would consider actually putting the 4 for excavating.
Okay. So once per turn.
No, sorry, that's right.
Yeah, once per turn you can put the 1 die ahead of the excavator. You're not using the room, but what you're doing is you're saying that you're going to excavate to that point. And then the value on the dice is where you can excavate up to. So 1, 2, 3, 4 would allow you to excavate to there. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, let's try it.
Now, the downside of placing the dice in your base is every time you place a dice in a column, all of the alien spacecraft, that should be there, will move down that number of spaces. So whilst the 4 is good, it's a good number, it's actually my favourite number, this moves down 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, the high values are great, they allow you to do more stuff, but it means the alien craft move closer towards you. And whenever these alien ships, reach the base, they deal 1 point of damage and then they go back to the top. There's a never-ending supply of these alien craft. And if your base ever takes this amount of damage, then again, you immediately lose the game. Okay, so the 4 has been placed. That is column 1 locked. Which dice would you like to place next?
Yeah, as you can see, I could have placed there 5 and excavate 1 more space.
You could have done.
Yeah, but there's another important aspect, that is that the enemy ships can end on a space with an icon. Yeah. And they immediately make that effect. And in this case, it would force the mothership to descend one row lower. So I avoided that. And so right now, I guess I can place the white 5 on the research.
Okay, so this is a research room here. So we put the 5 on there, and what happens is this moves down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's landed on this arrow, which means it actually moves over that way. Now, the other thing, whenever you place a white dice, and I know some of you are probably asking what's the difference between the white and the grey dice, is every time you place one of the white dice, you must immediately re-roll all of your other dice. And there you go. You have a 4, a 5, and a 2. So you use that tactically. Obviously, Tom didn't like the numbers he had, so he placed the 5 there in order to re-roll the existing dice. If he liked the existing dice, he would have wanted to use them before using the 5. Okay.
As you can see now, I made it quite challenging for myself because I moved the ship in the middle column, which means the next time I will place a die in that column, I will move both of them. So let's see. I can place the 4 into the last column, I guess, into the energy room.
So this moves down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right. And the 5 just next to it.
So this moves down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Leaving you with just this white 2.
Exactly, it leaves us just with this one, and I will place it into the first room, into the first gray AA gun room.
So
in the middle
all of these rooms on level 1, these are special because if you put a die in one of these grey rooms, it means the alien ships move 1 space fewer. So this is a 2, but it's treated as if it was a 1. So that moves down 1 and that moves down 1. Okay, that's the dice placement phase done. The next thing to do is actually to resolve these dice. Which one would you like to resolve first?
I mean, we can already remove the one in the first row because it already did its effect. And so the next one would be the excavation. Okay. So we can, sorry, no, it would be the research.
So the research here, you see this room here, there's 2 energy symbols on there. So that costs 2 energy. We start the game with 2 energy on this particular base. So 2 energy. And what that does is, Tom has generated 5 points of research. So we mentioned that to win the game, you need to basically develop a weapon that will defeat the aliens. And the way you do that is by moving this research marker all the way to the top of the research track. 5 points of research will allow Tom to go to the first space, which costs 3, then to the next space, which costs 1. So that's 4 points used. Doesn't have enough to get to the next space, so that is the end of the research. The research points that are left over do not carry over to the next room. So that's that spent. And you now have no energy left.
Yeah, so the next move would be probably to produce the energy.
So things that some of the rooms you'll see here are what are called double rooms. Double rooms only work if you fill every space in the room with dice. So Tom has put a 5 and a 4 in there, which means the room is filled, so that room works. But there is a -3 on there. So what happens is we add together the values of the dice. So that's 9, -3 is 6. So it generates 6 energy. That's going to keep us going for a couple of turns, hopefully. And then finally, excavation. Right. Excavation always costs 1 energy, and you move the excavator to here. Okay. That is the end of phase 2, which is resolving the dice.
It is actually great.
The next thing that happens is phase 3, where the mothership moves down. So what happens is the mothership moves down 1 space, and then there are a number of different effects printed on the side of the board here. So after the mothership has moved down, we then have this effect, which is an extra ship appears. So this is an extra alien ship that's trying to kill us. And it will go, I believe it will go in this column because this column is currently empty. So it always takes preference over the columns which are empty first. Now the difference between the white ships and the red ships is the red ships, whenever you kill them, they just go back to the start. There's a never-ending supply of them. Whereas the white ships, when you destroy them, they will actually get taken off the board. But that's it. That's 1 round of the game. And what you've seen here is the basic setup, playing against Roswell with the easy side of the boards. The game is challenging when you're learning it, but on this difficulty, as long as you take your time and think about it, you should be able to work it out. But you can customize the game quite easily by flipping these boards over. So if we wanted to increase the difficulty by 1, we could just pick any one of the boards, flip it over to the other side, and then that is done. That is now more difficult. And if you wanted to go really crazy, you could flip over all 4 of them, and that would be a very difficult game. Now, in addition to altering the difficulty of the game, Roswell is just one of how many cities are you going to have in the game, Tom?
Actually, we promised like over 20 cities, but that's not right because there would be like 15 or 17 cities right now, but they are also double-sided. So actually, it feels more like 30 cities altogether.
Okay. So here is New York, and New York will have a special ability, and also the base changes depending on what you're playing with. So if we were to just show you New York, for example, I believe that is... Yeah, that is the configuration of New York. And if you were wondering what these blue dice are, we have new rooms on the New York map. So these rooms are not available on the Roswell map, but on other maps, you find blue rooms, which are robots. And what happens is you basically go to work in a room, it generates a robot. The robot will then appear on the board, depending on what dice you used. And that robot will work in the room that you put it in every turn, and it will tick down. So this turn it would be a 4, next turn it would be a 3, next turn it would be a 2, etc., etc. And the robots in rooms basically act there, they work there, but they don't count as a dice in that column. So you still have to put another dice in that column. But there you go. That is a very quick overview of the game. And this is coming out later this year, and it's going to have a campaign mode as well. Is that right?
That's right.
Now, how's the campaign mode going to differ from just playing the game solo? Playing the game as a standalone game.
I mean, it's the campaign mode is something I was thinking about a lot when designing a solo game, because it's something that really makes sense when playing a solo game. You have all the time for to just put the game out and play it. And so in this case, I was quite inspired by the legacy style campaigns, but I don't like all the aspects of these legacy games, like throwing down the components and playing the game only once and such. So, but I really love the aspect of hidden content in those games. I'm always surprised what else will be there, and that's something I wanted to maintain in the game. So all the content in the game is designed in a way that they are like those sheets of cardboard, like put one after each other in the box. And as you play through the campaign, you put out just the sheets you need for where you play right now. So so there's always something new. You play the campaign through like 4 chapters. And every chapter introduces some new stuff, like of course new cities with new abilities, but there should be also missions. So every game you play with a special missions that alters the gameplay a bit, forcing you to think about it differently than you used to, and you will gather like a team of characters through the game. So that's also something enhancing the gameplay. And also there will be a few new mechanics. I mean, you can look forward as you introduce, for example, robots, like a new room appearing on some tiles, and then there will be more of these. So
it sounds like obviously you've taken the original idea, which was just a 9-card print and play game, and turned it into this, epic game with lots and lots of replayability.
Yeah, the thing is that I wanted to keep the campaign replayable, and all parts in the game to keep them replayable, and to allow the players to combine them any way they want. So you can play either as a full campaign, or you can just prepare a single scenario and play it as a standalone game with all you unlocked so far. So.
Cool. Yeah. So, well, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. We look forward to obviously this being released later on this year. You've still got quite a bit of work to do on the game with balancing and stuff, but it's how long have we got left before it goes to print?
Oh, it's difficult to say, because we are sending the stuff to print in just one after the other. Not everything has to be sent at the same time, but we're aiming to have the game ready sometime around October. So let's see how it goes. I mean, as you said, there's still lots of time, lots of stuff to do. So
Cool. Right. Well, thank you very much, Tom, for joining me this afternoon. I will say goodbye to you now, and I will speak to you. Speak to you later on.
It was my pleasure.
Right. And there we go. So yeah, I hope you found this useful. Quick overview of Lost Ruins of Arnak and Under Falling Skies as well. I'm actually going to be doing some videos on Under Falling Skies today. So I've got 3 live videos going on today where I'm going to be teaching people how to play it. If you're interested in seeing a full playthrough of that, that's going to be on my Gaming Rules channel later on. If you have any questions about the game, the best place I would say is to pop onto Board Game Geek. Both of the games are on Board Game Geek, and both the designers are active on there, and they can help you out with any questions. And if you've got any comments or feedback for them, pop on over to Board Game Geek. Other than that, just enjoy the rest of Gen Con. I hope you're having a good time so far. It's still early days, and I'm off to do some demoing. So thank you very much for watching, and take care, everybody.